Greetings, everyone. My name is Irina Mankovska, and it's Make Your Innovation Works. And today I'm pleased to host Jason Pyett. He's a founder of Playwell Bricks. Jason, can you please introduce yourself and tell a little bit more about your business and what actually Playwell Bricks is doing?
Absolutely. I'm Jason Pyett. I founded Playwell Bricks actually about 8 years ago as a non-for-profit, but uh, 5 years ago as a for-profit business. And generally, what we do is create custom Lego sets or Lego models for uh, corporate clients. Typically, we work with a lot of brands that people are familiar with, Google, Shell, Porsche, Bosch, those kind of names, as well as medium and small businesses.
Okay, how you came up with this idea? Are you like hardcore Lego fan, or I don't know?
Um, it's a convoluted story, but we'll
Okay, I like.
we'll start where all good stories start and go back to my childhood. Yeah, as a kid, we didn't have much. I was My mother was a single mom from a divorce, and one of the things we had from that life was a big box of Lego. So that I spent a lot of my childhood, rummaging through and building whatever came to mind. Um, and that continued well into my teens. And so Lego's always had that special place for me and that kind of refuge for creativity. Uh, as an adult, I continued collecting a little bit, like, if I saw a set on sale or something like that, I would do that. But the real kind of magic, I guess, happened, as I mentioned, about 8 years ago. If you want me to go into the story, I can. It's a little involved. Um, yeah, but ultimately, what it came down to was I wanted to teach kids how to be creative with Lego. Just creative in general, and Lego was a great medium to do that with. So I began a little, basically, club in my studio space here now, and I had 6 or so kids show up, and then that quickly expanded to moving to a community center, and that went to like 30 kids, and then we went to the elementary school, and that kept going and going. Um, and I did that for 3 years, and that's where the non-for-profit part came in, where I was going out buying bulk Lego, building the sets, selling the sets, and that's kind of where the business acumen came in, as well as the um, honing my design skills. And so I was getting a little bit of attention online because of all of this, and then 5 years ago, I got my first commission, which quickly led into more, and then I brought on a team. And within a year and a half, we had landed Google as a client. So that was kind of the very organic way that I got into this business. So uh, there was no real planning into any of this at the outset. It was just kind of life took me on that path and I followed it. Then I became more interested in working with more corporate clients and began to focus on that aspect more. And as I mentioned, we've worked with many companies since that point, and we focused solely on the corporate landscape.
Hmm. And how corporates came with the idea of custom Lego sets? So what I see, a lot of Lego sets custom made or like not custom made on different kind of like trade shows to gain attention from the audience or to illustrate some kind of like an idea how things works or how ecosystem works. Because basically Lego bricks, it's a great tool to illustrate actually whatever, to be honest, because they have plenty of details, colors, you can build shapes. So, I mean, numerous possibilities. So, how corporates and why they're starting to make this custom Lego sets? Do you see some kind of pattern? So it's like, I don't know, corporate gift, or it's for educational matter, whatever.
Sure. So there's there's a wide variety of clients that come to us, and a lot of our first calls are exploratory calls, where we're just figuring out what they want and what would create the most impact for them. Um, some clients know exactly what they want. Some come in and they know to a T, and they're wonderful because it makes my job very very easy to dive into
Yeah.
that. Other times, it takes a little bit of work on our end. Um, Kind of drilling down into exactly what they're trying to achieve with the Lego set. So as you mentioned, there's several different use cases. Sometimes it's an employee gift, sometimes it's a trade show gift, or a trade show giveaway. Sometimes it's a display piece to bring attention. Um, so we want to focus first of all on that aspect, like what's the use case, um, and then there's a little bit of secret sauce in there as well where later on when we get into like instructions and things like that, I pull all of that back in so that it creates value for the client outside of just creating a Lego set. So yeah, and it really depends on the clientele as well. You know, some might be a tech company and they want something that's, quote unquote geeky and gonna like really fill that niche. Sometimes it's a client that just, they want their logo. They've just done a rebranding and they want their logo done. So yeah, it's one of those things that there's never a dull moment. There's never like every single situation is very individual.
Hmm. And how you like? What is your process? I mean, for example, I'm a, I don't know, Google, Porsche, Shell, whatever company, and I came to you and say, okay, Jason, I see you are making lovely custom-made Lego sets. I would love to have one for, I don't know, my exhibition office, whatever. So, what happens next? I mean, what is the core parts of your process? How you actually guide the client from the idea to the result, and basically the result which satisfies customer, and create this impact you're talking about.
Absolutely. So it all starts with that discovery call, as I mentioned. So usually take 15 minutes, half an hour to go over with them. And then from that conversation, I will look at the options based on basic part size. I kind of ballpark that, and then I'll come up with a proposal for them and send that to them. And that proposal is just basically the numbers. Um, Once they're happy with that, then we go into a concept phase. And the concept phase is a very rough kind of sketch, if you will, of the Lego idea. So it might be looking at a specific area of the model. Like, say, if we're doing a bird, we're doing an eagle right now for a company, and we're focusing on the head first. If we get the head right, and then the rest of the body will follow. We look at things like size. If there's colors that are going to be important, we look at those kind of things. So the sketch is really just about aligning the vision of our designer with the client and making sure that those two things line up. Once the client's happy with that, then we move into the design phase. So we're an agile company, which means we'll do a sprint of work, we'll send it off to them, get their feedback, and we just keep working back and forth that way until the very end where they've been involved in the entire process. They know exactly what they're getting. And unlike other design fields that might like present the final product and then have to go back and redo the entire thing, we don't have that problem. We're done at the end of the design. We know exactly what the client wanted, so it gives assurance on both sides. um And then we spin into quality assurance. So we will do a test build ourselves. We'll make sure everything works as intended. We'll create the instructions. And this is, again, where I mentioned that little bit of a secret sauce where I use my know how in branding and marketing and whatnot to really create an experience. So more than just that Lego set layoff, I always tell our clients, the Lego set is the door opener, the instructions are where we deliver the message.
Hmm.
So we create impact with those instructions because um, to put it in rudimentary terms, we have a captive audience. They have to follow the instructions. So let's use them to maximum effect. So in that case, if it's an employee gift, we can talk about the benefits of working with the company, how the company's grown, the impact that the company's having around the world, all of those kind of things we can incorporate in there. And then
Like a
at the same
storytelling. I
time,
mean, you
okay,
tell
go
a
ahead.
story. Yeah, I mean, it's basically like a storytelling. You tell a story with instructions. So at the end of the day, the set is the result, but you tell a story, and actually, those who build, they like become part of the story, and they have some kind of piece from the story, real evidence. Cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep, that's the whole point behind it. Yeah, and then we also have our own graphic design department. So if we're doing any branded graphics, we have one here that we did for the Rockefeller Group. So you can
Oh,
see this.
amazing.
These were branded graphics here. And then if we're doing any branded packaging, sometimes the client have their own team that works on that. Sometimes we do. It really depends. And then we're on to fulfillment. So we have suppliers all around the world. So we will work with whatever works best for the client to make the order happen.
Amazing. And what is the most, maybe, I don't know, unusual or emotional feedback you got on some sets you have built for your clients, from their clients? I mean, from those who actually were building what you have created.
Uh, I'll try not to get emotional with this one. So, uh, we had a personal client come out, and we don't do very many personal commissions anymore, mostly due to cost. Um, but this client came and he was given a terminal diagnosis for cancer. He had a very young family and wanted to leave something behind. So he went out and it was a beautiful idea. He went out to a lot of different people and got custom gifts made for his children for down the years. And he chose us to create a Lego set based on their home. Um, Now I'm getting emotional.
It's very
So,
sorry.
yeah, so we worked, we refused payment on that, and we did charge for the parts, but that was it. Because the design fee would have been astronomical. It ended up being a Lego set that was, I think, 4,000 parts,
Wow.
and we captured their home in full detail and had one of our great designers from he's located in Israel that did that for us. Um, yeah, so then last Christmas we delivered that, and it was received with the emotional impact that you know you can imagine the response.
No, I
So
think it's
and the wife,
amazing to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the wife had no idea that this had been placed. She had no idea it was coming. So yeah, it was very, very impactful on that level. And um, as a little side note, those are the projects that mean the most always. Like it's wonderful to work with our corporate clients. It's fantastic, to work with Google and Shell and all these other ones, and but those ones where we can create real life impact is is always the best.
Amazing. And do you still like build Lego on your own? I mean, with your own family, some new sets, or it's like just become like a part of your job? You know, this there is a. It's not a proverb, but it's a like very famous quotation that if you have a dream job, you don't need to actually work because it's going to be like 100% rewarding. So but in my experience it's not like bed of roses, obviously. So do you still like love Lego, and or it's just become okay, it's my work, it pays my bill, I love it, it may create impact, but I don't know, I will use Playmobil sets, or I don't know.
Right. So this is not my first kick at the can with turning my passion into a business. And the first couple times it was an absolute, I wouldn't say failure, but uh
Experience.
I learned a lot. Yes. When I chose 5 years ago to take on that first commission, I had the mental shift that this was going to be a business. This was not going to be a hobby that got turned into a business. Um, and because of that mental shift, I've developed a different appreciation for Lego. So I would say I still love building. I still love all of that. Um, I love designing. I don't love the physical act of building much anymore because most of my builds have become stress. They've become, as you said, associated with my business. Um, and they're always under timelines. They're always crunches. So even I've pulled out a Lego set every once in a while and just tried to build for the enjoyment of building, and the same emotional response happens where I have that, got to get this built and get it done. And so building for just the joy of building does not happen anymore. It's always with purpose. That being said, I, as I said, I appreciate Lego on a whole new level. So I appreciate Lego on the level of its ability to be a tool to explain concepts, to be able to create impact, to be able to actually affect real world situations, whether it being corporate, whether it being personal. Um, so I probably have, if I want to, use the colloquial term of, I have a stronger love of Lego now than I did previously when I just enjoyed, grabbing a set and building it.
So it's like totally different experience for you now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I read on your website, if I did get it right, that you also do some kind of like educational part, I think, based on like Lego pieces or something. Can you tell a little bit more about this? I mean, so it's education for like, I don't know, kids or adults, and which kind of like mm, types of training or whatever could be done with Lego pieces and it would be like extremely effective.
Yeah. So this goes back, I've always had that lean of being an educator in my mind. There's a story back in my university days where they were grooming me for the botany program to take over, and um, I didn't want to be stuck in a lab for the rest of my life. So I
Pretty
so
boring.
I've always had this lean, and then when I was, working with the kids doing, I was also doing Lego robotics at the time as well with them. So I was teaching them that. I was, showing them how to be creative. That was satisfying that part of my, personality that loves to teach. And then I did a workshop with an art school locally, and it was more focused. it was more focused on the art aspect of Lego, and I had to come up with a whole timeline and lesson plan and stuff I've never done before, but it was a really enjoyable experience. And then after that, somebody reached out and said, "Do you think you'd want to do this with adults for corporate?" And I hadn't even really considered that possibility beforehand. And as soon as I started digging into it, I kind of fell in love with that aspect too. So, getting into some practical ideas behind that and ways I've used that before. Um, going right back to my very first one. So it was for a non-for-profit. Um, it was after COVID, so their resources had dwindled, the need had expanded, which meant they were in a very tight situation and they had to kind of convince their board to take more risks. So they had a full day plan to this, and my section was 90 minutes of that. So we again, going back to that discovery thing is I'm always delving into what's going to create the most impact. So I had an hour-long conversation with that client. We went back and forth with some ideas. I walked away from that. I created a series of activities that would cement those ideas and guide the thinking along that path, but also being a bit introspective and making the attendants kind of think deeply about the matters that were at hand. So with that said, the theme of the event was building bridges. So the very first event, or the very first activity, was to put some tables about 6 inches apart and have them build a bridge, and then on that bridge was an egg. So they had to make sure that that egg did not fall. And then that was pretty easy. Everybody managed that, no problem. And then I told them to go to 9 inches. And for all our European people, that's like 23 centimeters. So then I said 23 centimeters wide, and you have to do the same activity, but now you can only use the parts that you had used previously.
Hmm.
So this one was more of a challenge.
Sounds like.
And more, there were some failures, there were some eggs dropping, but that, going back to the point that they had the same amount or less resources, they had to bridge a bigger gap, and they still had that vulnerable audience that they were trying to work with.
It's very powerful analogy.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I do with all of my clients for those workshops is I'm trying to figure out the most impactful way to get across that point. And as I said, I develop a whole series of questions, kind of like Lego serious play in that way, where I'm trying to use that analogy and metaphors to open up thinking. And the other good side of this is if we walked up and I was going to give a talk on having to be riskier, having to take these challenges, having to, do all this, I'm sure half the audience would have closed their ears to it, at least. But when you're bringing in something fun, it's Lego. Everybody lights up when they walk in the room, and they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do with Lego? I haven't played with Lego since I was a kid." And it's super exciting. It's super fun. It's interactive, and it can hit those powerful messages without being pedantic and without isolating the crowd.
Yeah, and people, when they're emotional and positive way, they're dropping their guard down. So basically, they're ready to accept the message. Because if it's like town hall meeting and there's a boardroom and they, okay, you need to have this challenge and blah blah blah. So it's not so inspireful like this egg problem. It feel more fun there, and you start to build this analogy with your situation and something clicking. So I think it's very powerful. I mean, this kind of like so basically, what happens here? It's the message is delivered to subconscious level in a very, let's say, I don't know, native or good way. I mean, so the guard is down and there is no judgment there. So it's very cool, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, it actually works. I mean, from neuro perspective, like how our brain works, it works.
absolutely. Yep. Yep. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Amazing. And what do you love more? Like creating this kind of like educational part or trainings or whatever, or helping to create custom Lego sets? Where is your energy?
Uh, I mean, both induce a flow state in me. Uh, I wouldn't say I love them both equally. Um, I love the educational aspect, I think, a little bit more. I think I it gives me more of an intellectual challenge, and uh I love a challenge. On the other hand, when I get into designing myself and get into that flow state, I will be gone for hours.
Unstoppable.
And yeah, yeah. So I mean, they both have different aspects. It's like choosing your favorite child. I think in that uh,
Impossible.
where they definitely they both satisfy a different need in me. Yeah.
And do you have some kind of, I don't know, programs or whatever to transfer your knowledge? I mean, some kind of like webinar courses, or if someone would be interested in like recreating your experience or joining this experience on whatever. So do you have something in mind, or what is going to be your recommendation if someone from our audience would
That's
like to add?
coming. That's coming.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
coming.
So
Yeah.
follow Jason on LinkedIn for future updates.
Yeah, that might be that's a long-term goal where at least on the workshop side that we're going to develop a series of activities and things like that yeah, but there's definitely plans for that.
Okay. So, and we're like almost running out of time. So, what would be maybe, I don't know, recommendation or suggestion for those who are trying to create different kind of like story for their business? And you're doing this storytelling in form of Lego set. So, what would be your suggestion? I mean, I don't know how to start, how to create this perfect story, or what to take into consideration. So, can you please give some tips for those who struggling with storytelling?
I struggle with storytelling. I really, really do. But the amazing thing is, and you've seen my posts on LinkedIn lately, is the things that resonate are the everyday. Uh, and I literally just had a meeting about this with somebody else. It's everybody goes through the same experiences, like everybody, and we all maybe have a different take or different perspective on it. But if you're having a bad day, if things are going wrong, um, there's your story. If you're having a great day, things are going wonderful. There's your story. Eh, we're surrounded by stories. Like stories are everywhere. They happen all the time. We don't recognize it as that. But if we look at like some of the most powerful storytelling platforms like TikTok and YouTube, a lot of the ones that resonate the most are just people going around living their lives.
Yeah,
And
lifestyle blogs are like top performers.
right. So it's easy to find the stories. You just have to be a little bit more aware of what's happening in your life and tell that.
I think it's very powerful point because a lot of people they overthink the storytelling. They try to create some kind of, I don't know, Lord of the Rings in form of tweet basically for like 140 symbols. But it's not about that. It's like keeping attention of your audience, like deliver the message, stay in touch. And in this case, what's happened around you is a very powerful idea. I mean, you always can find a new perspective basically because you have totally different experience. I mean, we had the same morning coffee, me and you today, but it was different coffee. I mean, like style, mug, situation, context, whatever. So that's what's helped us to build the story actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also making sure that it has an emotional connection. Um, this is why the contradictory posts always get an impact. Like when you can stir an emotion, and I don't recommend stirring negative emotions, but when you can stir any sort of emotion, inspiration, that's my go-to all the time. I'm always trying to inspire. Um, no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm working with kids, whether I'm working with adults, whether I'm, creating things for corporate clients, everything about what I do is about inspiring. So that's always a good go-to. Or spreading joy, or spreading kindness. Um, all of those things that create an emotional connection and create some attachment with your audience are always going to be the most impactful.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jason, for your time. And thank you so much for those who were joining us live or going to watch us later. So, Jason, maybe you would like to help tell like a couple of words before we're dropping off our broadcasting for our audience and I don't know, some kind of like suggestion, tip, whatever.
Sure. I have one the other day that came to mind. I've been trying to figure out what's been going on. To be honest, I am not the smartest person in the room. I am definitely not the most business savvy, and I rely on people a lot to give me advice and everything like that. I don't pretend I know any of the answers. So I couldn't. I've been sitting here wondering why all of this, wonderful things are happening around me, and it dawned on me that um, making your own luck is massive. If you have a lucky thing that comes up, like with Google when we got them as a client, that was more luck than planning. To be quite honest, I was putting stuff out there in the ether, and it came back, but it was more luck than planning. But as soon as that happened, I jumped on it. I wasn't petrified that, oh no, this is Google, this is a huge client. Like, what if I mess up? That never entered my mind. It was yes, let's do it, and we'll figure it out along the way. And then things like that kept happening. And lightning might strike once, it maybe even might strike twice. But after a while, when it keeps hitting and hitting and hitting, it's more than just luck. It may seem like luck on the outside, um, but keep working hard. Keep following your vision. Don't worry about your goals and all of that. Keep following your vision and absolutely pursue your dreams with everything you have, because it will pay massive dividends in the long run, not just for you, but for your family and for all the people that are associated with you. Yeah, just keep at it. That's all I have.
I think it sounds like a wisdom. I mean, something worth of quoting because today people are focused on like goals, smart goals, planning, and all of this. Obviously, it's important because we have some kind of like, I don't know, financial dependencies, whatever. But it's very important to find something and follow this track when you find something that really matters to you. I mean, because at the end of the day, it prevents burnout and it helps you to deliver sustainably and continuously whatever you need. So this is a very powerful message. I mean, when you're in your 20s, you don't think about things are business in this way, obviously. So it's starting like when you're, I don't know, maybe a 40s. It's not ageism, it's just like state, I mean, and
Yep,
life experience.
yeah, I found very much the same. Very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like we had a very powerful ending for our broadcasting. So thank you so much for joining me today and everyone who are listening us. And we have like a couple of comments that the chats and session was great. So I'm very happy that we could deliver some kind of inspiration to those who's going to watch this later was with us online. So have a great rest of the day, and see you in the upcoming podcast, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.